as well as this. This is a Wednesday evening. It's not a Sunday morning. It's a Wednesday evening. It's dark and horrid out there, but we're here in the kitchen for a really, I hope it's going to be a relatively quick kitchen live for the first of the bonus episodes on our way to Christmas. So hi, if you're joining us, as usual, let me know where you're from, pop it in the comments, say hello. We might have other people joining us because it's not the middle of the night like it normally is on a Sunday morning when we do this, but good evening and welcome to another Kitchen Live. I'm Lou from Crumbs and Corkscrews, and you guys are Crummers, yay! And this evening we're going to be getting into homemade mince meat, and this is all ready for one of the kitchen lives that we've got planned right in the last weekend before Christmas, and that's sort of mince pies and other festive treats. So today we're going to have a bonus session, bonus stream of making our homemade mincemeat, which is then just going to sit and relax and do its own thing whilst we get into December for a couple of weeks. So yeah, hi, welcome. If you've not joined us before, what we do is we just have a few moments, as you can see the clock ticking down there, just to let everybody else that wants to join us join, and then we'll get started. If you're watching this on catch up, hi as well. If you're watching this on a Wednesday evening, I hope you're tapped up with something warm, or you've had your dinner and things, and yeah, I hope your week's going really, really well. As you can see, we're all Christmased up as well. The Christmas jumper is out this evening. So I hope that you can stick around for the next half an hour or so as we make our homemade mince meat. And yeah, just got a few seconds. I'll let you guys all come in, and we'll get cracking. It's not a complicated recipe, this one. It's just whacking stuff in a pan and then putting it on the hob for a few minutes and then jarring it, and then we're going to use it in a couple of weeks' time. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. I love mincemeat. It's great stuff. So yeah, excellent. Let's just see who else is there. Hi everyone. Let's go. Let's get stuck into this now. Where have we gone? Little things. So our recipe this evening is, as you can see, homemade mincemeat, and this is a really quick and easy recipe for our festive fruit mix, ready for our mince pies or whatever else you want to put in. I use it in ice cream and in cakes and all sorts of things, as well as mince pies. And this is going to make about 4 jars of about 350 grams. And you can make this in advance. It'll keep for up to a year, so you can make it this evening, jar it, and leave it somewhere nice and cool. And you can use it again next year when it's had chance to mature and get all sort of lovely and spicy. This recipe is using butter, so we're not using any suet in this, which is a standard ingredient, normally a beef suet or a vegetable suet. We're just going to use butter. This is good old Mary Berry's take on it, with, well, our slight tweaks to the recipe, but this is her take using butter. She prefers that, and I do as well. I'm not a big fan of the suet. This also means that it's easy to make it vegetarian or vegan by using a vegan substitute instead of butter. It's also, we're going to be popping some brandy in it, but it's also really easy to switch this out and use a fruit juice, either apple or orange, to make it non-alcoholic if you want to. So that's the recipe, and sort of what we're going to be doing. And in terms of ingredients then, a lot of these are things that you might have in the cupboard that you buy at Christmas, you put away, you don't use them. By all means, these are the ingredients I'm going to be using, but you can switch these around if you want to. So for dried ingredients, we've got they're currants, sultanas, currants, raisins, and we're popping in some dried cranberries as well. We're adding in some mixed peel. This is not my favourite, but it works a treat in mincemeat. We're going to be using some freshly chopped apple. Now, if you've got a cooking apple or a large apple, use that. I've just got 2 little ones, so I'm going to chop both of those up. We're going to be needing a lemon, the zest and juice of this guy here. Some butter. Like I say, we're not using syrup, we're using butter instead in here. So that's unsalted butter. We've got some light muscovado or soft light brown sugar. And then we're going in with a sprinkle of mixed spice and cinnamon. And you can make your own spice mix if you prefer. You can use mace and nutmeg and ground ginger. But actually the mixed spice, if you've got this in the cupboard, this works a treat instead. So that's what I'm going to be doing there. And the recipe itself is really quite simple. We're going to add everything into a large saucepan, except for the alcohol, and then we're going to pop it on the hob for 10 minutes so it all comes together all comes together. I've just seen, hi Gina, good evening. We missed you Sunday, but I've just seen that you've managed to catch up, so good evening. Yeah, so it is a really, really simple recipe, but it tastes amazing. Now I know you can buy your own, you can buy it in the store, and it's easy enough to do that. And actually, it's not too expensive. And I'll be honest, there's part of a jar left in the fridge that I've been experimenting with some recipes. But now is the time to make our mincemeat. And so as we'll go through, we'll have a chat about some bits and pieces as well, where this recipe's from, actually where mincemeat is from as well, because everybody goes, if you've not had a mince pie or you're not familiar with it, and you say, well, I'm making mincemeat, and everyone's like, what are you doing that for? But actually, this is a fruit mincemeat, and this has been adapted over from my granny's recipe that she's made, also a Mary B recipe, and also this guy, Nigel Slater. If you love recipe books, then I can highly recommend Nigel Slater, anything by Nigel Slater, but his Christmas Chronicles book gets me totally in the mood for Christmas, and I always read it before Christmas. And this has a fabulous section on branded mincemeat and some information. And actually, when I look at these recipes, a lot of them are very similar in terms of what everybody is using. So I can highly recommend Mr. Slater. And whilst we talk about actually mincemeat, this here is, this was a new edition, it's long gone being new, of Mrs. Beeton's book of household management. And it is well used. I don't know what the published date on this is. It was originally published in 1861, but this is way after that. But it's got all these fabulous adverts in the front. And in fact, this one here is for the handy suet for puddings, minced meat, and pie crust. It's a tora, and it's a fresh beef suet. But here in Mrs. Beeton's book, she has quite a few recipes for mincemeat, and again, it's quite a simple recipe that hasn't changed much over the years. And when we're doing quite similar, she's got suets, currants, raisins, apples, sugar, sultanas, candied peel, lemon, brandy, nutmeg, mace, and cinnamon. She also has a couple of variations, including an economical one. And then over the page, I don't know if our American friends can tell us if this is true, there's an American recipe for mincemeat, which is our suet, sugar, currants, raisins, candied lemon, apples, allspice, and then 2 pounds of finely chopped cooked fresh beef tongue. Not actually sure about that one, Mrs. Beeton. I think I will leave that to around the history books. But it's an interesting read to see actually where mincemeat has come from and the background from it. But we're definitely making a more 2020 version. which, like I say, hasn't really changed much over the years since my gran made it. So what we'll do is we'll start weighing out. So I haven't weighed any of the fruit, but I'm going to do that now. So I'm going to weigh it straight into my big pan. And you can easily scale this down if you want to. You don't have to do the quantities that I've got here. If you want to do smaller, if you only want to make 2 jars of mincemeat, you can do that as well. So let's start off. It's equal quantities of the dried fruit of the sultanas, currants and cranberries. So we're going in just straight in with 175 grams of each of those. So that's the currants in. And we're going to be using these again for the Christmas cake at the weekend. We'll stir up Sunday. And these are now our raisins. You can use different types of raisins if you wanted to. You can use golden raisins, or sometimes they're called flame raisins as well, the big ones, all sorts. So that's our currants and our raisins. Sultanas, again, you can use different types of sultanas if you want to jazz it up, but you can just use regular stuff. It's quite, if you're buying all this for your Christmas cake anyway, you've probably got enough to make your mincemeat with it as well. And then let's set that again. We've got our cranberries, and I think actually, yes, this is the right amount in here. Now you can, if you want to, also use things like dried apricots or dried prunes. Make sure obviously they're stoned in there. The prunes will disintegrate a bit whilst it's cooking down, but there's nothing to stop you doing that as well. I'm not adding nuts into this. If you want to use it, nuts you can do. Blanched almonds are probably the best bet to go in here, and that's probably what's more traditional, but obviously I have a nut allergy, so we're going to avoid that on this. So with all our dry fruit in there, we're then going to want some mixed peel. This is probably like my worst thing. I don't like mixed peel, but once it's cooked down, it's not too bad. We want 100 grams of that, which probably is not quite the thing, but there we go. So that's all our fruit that's dried. We're also going to want to add our sugar in. This is a light muscovado, or a light brown sugar if you prefer. If you want something a bit more intense, deeper, a bit like we're talking about with cake, you might use a dark muscovado sugar instead. So that's in. This is it. I told you, it's super simple. Everything goes in. We're then going to add in our butter. There's 125 grams here of unsalted butter. And I say, if you want to make it vegan, you could then switch that butter for a vegan butter alternative. So for the moment then, that's that, and we're going to pop our spices in. So we want a teaspoon of mixed spice, or as like I say, you can make your own with nutmeg, mace and cinnamon, ginger, and then I've got a little bit of cinnamon. I only want a quarter of a teaspoon for that. And there we have all our dry ingredients. Next thing you need is our fresh. So in here then we're going to add our apples and I forgot the peeler. Did wash it up, ready to go. So you want to peel and core your apples. And if you've seen me doing the apples before with the tart, you know I can't peel to save my life. So mincemeat and mince pies never originally sort of were fruit. Fruit became as part of mince pies not until about the 1700s, and then into definitely by Victorian period it was firmly in the sweet camp. I mean, they notoriously had very sweet tooth. Queen Victoria herself, and they. But the mince pies sort of date back, and mincemeat date back to about the 13th century, and they were a lot larger. And yes, they did contain meat, and but they weren't associated with Christmas until a lot later, and we've got sort of it's around about the 1600s. Samuel Pepys, who wrote the Diaries of the Great Friar of London, he is probably the first person to have detailed them being associated with Christmas, and they were still meat at that point as well. And then there was a bit of a moment when they actually we risked losing them altogether, when it was deemed that maybe they were a bit too godless and frivolous for Christmas. So we, but safe to say, that law never passed. We still have our mince pies for Christmas and things. But yeah, it was. They do go back quite a way, and it's since then that they've been associated with Christmas and things. Apparently, during Prohibition in the States, obviously with alcohol, the alcohol content of mincemeat and mince pies went up to about 14%, because it was one way they could legitimately get the alcohol into everything. So what I'm doing at the moment is I've just peeled and cored my apples, and I'm just being careful not to take my fingers off, and just cubing them really sort of. They're going to cook down as they're in the thing anyway. I didn't go too well with the core on that. So nearly there. And what we're going to do now is we're not going to add the alcohol or whatever liquid you're adding, because we don't want to cook that off whilst while we're cooking down for 10 minutes or so. So that will add once the mixture has been cooked and then is cooled down. Now, if you don't want to do alcohol version, you can switch that out for an apple juice or an orange juice, a fruit juice instead. Let's just add the apple in. Oops, escaped piece. And then with our lemon, we're going to zest and juice this into our mixture. I've got stuff everywhere. That's typical, isn't it? You know what I'm like. So we're just going to use a microplane zester to zest down. And remember, when you're zesting an orange, you just want to take off the yellow. You don't want to go down to the white, because that white pith is bitter. So we want the lemon oils and things from the top. So just gently. Now, these things are amazing, these microplane zesters. This one actually came, oops, don't want to drop it in everything, came from Aldi in their middle aisle. And is as good as some of the expensive ones that you can get out there. But you don't need to put any pressure on, or it will just nicely take off the top of our zest. with the cinnamon and the mixed spice, and we've got the apples and the sugar, and now we're adding the lemon. It definitely, definitely smells Christmassy. There we go. There we go. We don't want to take down any more of that. And I'm just going to actually use that to get everything out. So then we're going to take the juice of our lemon as well. You can juice if you want to, or you can just, if you've got clean hands, why not clean? I've washed. You can squeeze it through and catch the pips with your hand. It's a bit like when you do an egg yolk and you separate them out with your hands as well. You can, if you want to save on the washing up. And this is just a medium lemon. And remember, if you're zesting, you want to get really, you want to get an unwaxed lemon. Because you don't want the wax in it. I mean, that helps with the preserves. This has got lots of pips in it. The most I've seen on a lemon for ages. Crikey. My hand's full of pips. Nearly. Okay, let's just give my hands a rinse. And that then is everything in here. So this is the dried fruit, the sultanas, the cranberries, the currants, the raisins, the mixed peel, the zest and the juice of the lemon, the chopped apple, butter and the sugar. So this now is just going to go onto the hob and cook for about 10 minutes until the butter's all melted, everything starts pumping up. So I'm just going to pop that on the back. And you'll want to stir it every few minutes because obviously we don't want anything to catch or be left on the bottom, and especially if you're using prunes instead, as they start to dissolve down into the mixture, you want to make sure that you do give it a stir through to make sure it doesn't catch. So that actually is all we need to do for our mincemeat, apart from once it's finished cooking, we'll leave it to cool down for a little bit, and then we're going to add our alcohol, or we're going to add whatever we want to use, if it's an orange juice or an apple juice as well, because what we don't want to do is that heat to burn, to cook off the liquid. So we need to make sure it's properly cooled before we add anything else to it. If you don't want to use brandy, which is obviously traditional, you could use a whiskey or a rum, or even if you like Nigella, you could use a really nice ruby port, especially if you've got things in there like cranberries, and it's more orangey. The port really goes well. Think of like a cranberry sauce there. You can, like I say, you can switch the fruits around. You could add apricots, you could add prunes instead. You could maybe even give it a little bit of a tropical twist with some tropical fruit, but you need to make sure that it's not going to disintegrate down too much. But something like mango or pineapple could be really quite nice to add a bit of a tropical twist to your mincemeat and things. If you aren't using if you're not using alcohol, this then will affect how long your mincemeat's going to last. So normally, if you're popping the alcohol in and then you're making it yourself, it will keep. Actually, you can jar it, keep it for up to a year in a cool place. But if you're not using alcohol, which is helping the preserving of the fruit and everything in there, if you're using an orange juice or an apple juice, you want to really use your mincemeat within about a week of making it. You can, however, freeze it. So if you wanted to make it ahead, you could pop it in the freezer and obviously make sure it's thoroughly defrosted before you then start to use it. And you can use it sort of towards Christmas if you're making your mince pies and various other things that you might want to do with it. But really, that is how simple it is. It's not anything too fancy. It's just on the stove and it will come through. When you are storing then your mincemeat, you need to make sure it's in a sterilised container, and I will pop a link to a couple of my lovely bloggy friends. Camilla over at Fab Food for All has a fantastic post in a lot of details about jarring and preserving things as well, and the correct process that you should be going through. I have and I've realised I've put all my lights over my oven. But in here I have, I won't use it, but I have sterilised a very large kilner jar, and that has been sterilised with hot water, and then it's been poured out, and then it's gone straight in the oven at 50 degrees for quite a while, just to sterilise it out. When the mincemeat is ready, what I'll do is I'll grab the jar out of the oven and pop the mincemeat straight into it once the alcohol's been put through it, and then it will just seal then until I need it, because I'm probably going to use all of it this year, if I'm totally honest. I can hear this bubbling already, so I'm just going to give it a quick stir, because I want to get everything through. So the apples and the lemon, the apples are going to give up their juice. We've got the butter in there. You've got the lemon juice as well. And all those spices and everything mixing through. So that's pretty much it for a mincemeat. Like I say, it's super quick, super simple, and yes, you can buy it in the store. I do have half a jar left. I don't know if I can get in here now. I've tied everything up. This is me trying to be pretty. Let's have a look. We've got a jar here. What's in it? You'll find most jars of mincemeat actually now do use a vegetable suet rather than beef. So most of them are suitable for vegetarians and vegans. I don't think it has alcohol in it either. So if you don't want alcohol, yeah, it's got sugar and apples, vine fruit, mixed peel, lemon peel, vegetable suet. And it has a little bit of treacle in it and mixed spices. So effectively, it's a very similar recipe. This is a jar of just Robinson's Classic. I was testing some new mince pies the other day, and I've been given a jar, so I've been using that to try it. We actually made mince pies with the gingerbread dough that we use for the Halloween gingerbread men and the Christmas gingerbread reindeer cookies, and I've made it. I made them into. I used it to make like mince pie cases, and oh my god, it tastes amazing. So I just need to do a little bit of refinement to it, and then we'll use some of this mincemeat into them as well, and they'll be up soon. But if you don't want to make it, yeah, you can buy your own. This recipe is going to make this is a 400 gram jar, so it's a little bit less than that. So this recipe will probably make about 3 jars. Like I say, if you're buying the dried fruits, the vine fruit, the sultanas, the currants and the raisins for your Christmas cake, you're most probably going to have some left over, and there's just 175 grams of each in there, so you've got plenty to play with, so to speak. I'm just going to can feel it all coming together. So this has been a really quick one this evening. I'll just quickly recap what we've done. So we've made our own homemade mincemeat. Super quick, super simple, and it's, like I say, it's going to make about 4 350 gram jars. It's perfect for your homemade mince pies. We're making it now. We're going to use it in about 4 or 5 weeks time. I forget how many weeks we are to Christmas now. We've not got any suet in here. We're using butter. We're taking a tip from Queen Mary Berry and using butter instead of the suet. So it is easy to make it vegetarian. It's easy to make it vegan as well by using a vegan butter substitute. And like I say, if you don't want to add alcohol, you can use apple and orange juice. Mix of both instead. Or maybe actually you could use a really nice clementine juice. I've seen Marks and Spencer's do one at this time of year, which would be really nice. So it's got a little bit more tang to it. But yes, it's really, really easily adaptable, and it will keep for up to a year in the cool if you're using alcohol for the preserving. In terms of ingredients then, we've got the sultanas, the currants, the raisins, the dried cranberries in here, the mixed peel, lemon zest and lemon juice, fresh lemon there, and apple. I use 2 small ones, but if you've got a cooking apple or a large size apple, then that's perfect. You want something like a Bramley if you're going big. I used some Braeburns this evening just to help bring it all together as well. We've added a touch of cinnamon and a little bit of mixed spice. If you've got separate spices like mace, nutmeg, ginger, you can add those in as well, or instead of the mixed spice. And we've used a light brown sugar. That was a light muscovado sugar that we've got in there. A bit of butter. So that's instead of the suet, and then we've got the liquid, which is going to be added into this once it's all cooked and cooled. And we're using brandy for a Christmas festive tipple, but you can use a rum, a whiskey, a port if you prefer. And like I say, if you want the alcohol variety, you can use an apple or an orange juice. So that's it. We've had a little bit of a history lesson as well, because I was like, so I know mincemeat didn't actually start out as fruit. So where did it come from? So it's 13th century, and it's come up, and it's only actually in the Victorian era where we switched to a sweet variety, and we went all for the sweet tooth side of things. And yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's one of them things. It's the humble mince pie, and it's been around for utter centuries, and has evolved. But ultimately, like we've seen, having a look in Mrs. Beeton, which was first published in 1861, I think. But she's got recipes in here for mincemeat with. In how we know with fruits, but mixed in with 2 pounds of beef tongue. Very bizarre, very bizarre. It was on page. I mean, there's so much in here, and it's so interesting to read. But if anyone's got a copy of Mrs. Beeton kicking around, go and check it out. Let's just have one last stir of this because I can hear it, and then see now. This is looking like mincemeat should. So I'm just going to pop that on for 5 minutes now. It only needs about 10 minutes to cook before you take it off the heat. What's happening now is the butter's melted, the sugar's all melted into that, the fruits are starting to plump up, and it smells incredible. So that's sort of almost ready to go. So I'll take it off the heat, leave it to cool, and then I'll pop it into the sterilised jar as well. And we'll be ready to make it and use it in a couple of weeks' time. But as always, you can find sort of various recipes over on the blog. Where have we gone? This one. So there is, and we will be doing it in a couple of weeks' time, the short crust mince pies. And this is what we'll be using mincemeat for. Not that, it's chocolate orange, but we're going to be making our little mince pies, and then we'll be talking about our gingerbread ones as well. You can also use it, let me see if I can find it for you. I use it in my mince pie ice cream. You can either use it separately or in mince pies that you've got left over. And then I also use it in my mince pie cake with brandy buttercream. And that's all on the blog as well, and I'll link out to those for you. But I can hear this is going. This is getting there. I'm just going to turn the heat down a little bit. And things. But thank you very much for joining me on a Wednesday evening. It was a lovely half hour of quick prep ready for Christmas. On Sunday, if you are joining us, we are making our Christmas cake. It is Stir Up Sunday here in the UK. Again, something that goes back to Victorians, where everybody would get together and give a good old stir of the Christmas pudding before it was popped away, ready for Christmas to mature. It's now become synonymous with making your Christmas cake. So on Sunday, we'll be making our Christmas cake and popping it in the oven, leaving it to mature then for a couple of weeks before we decorate it just before Christmas. So I know people have asked, so I will be popping up a full list of the ingredients that you're going to need for that. And then next Wednesday, Gina, don't go, I've just said you said thanks, see you Sunday. We're going to be doing coffee cake. Yes, coffee cake is one of the ones that I really get requested for, and I know Gina has also requested it. We're going to be giving a little Christmas twist with a little bit of decoration as well. So we're going to be making a coffee cake with a coffee buttercream next week. And yoo-hoo! We're going to be giving it a little Christmas look. And that'll be next Wednesday. So thank you for joining me in the week. It's been a pleasure. I'm going to go and check on the mincemeat and then have some dinner. I hope wherever you are, as always, in the world, you are safe and well, and look after yourselves and look after each other. Be kind, and I will see you on Sunday. See you later. Bye.